You guys requested it. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to do TEVVEZ style, hardstyle. You can get this full template that you just heard in the intro at the top of the description on my website. Definitely grab this. It'll help you make an awesome hardstyle track today. Links at the top of the description. Once again, thanks for the support, guys, and let's get started. Alright, so we're at 150 BPM, kind of like the famous hardstyle tempo. And the first thing I want you to see is how few elements are happening here for this drop. You know, I really studied these tracks, and I really listened to them, and I realized most of these drops are really just like a kick and a lead, maybe a counter lead, and then some simple effects, right? But then the thing is, it's simple and it's only like, 2, 3, 4, 5 things happening, but you're gonna spend a lot of time on each one. So starting here with our kick. Now, this is kind of a weird kick because of what's happening inside of here and the way we're like doing a pitch envelope and kind of, adding all these crazy harmonics to it. The pitches this says, it is the same intervals, but it's not, like this isn't F sharp minor. We're actually in the key, or F sharp major. We're actually in the key of E major, or you could also kind of look at it as like G sharp minor, right? Like if you look at these. Right, they're very much written in that sort of G sharp minor and then kind of breaking it, throwing in that G there. So it's not always, with the hardstyle kicks, if you synthesize them like this, a lot of times the pitch can change once you start playing with that pitch envelope. The intervals, however, are something that you can follow and something that you could do. This is really just going root 5, or excuse me, 6, 5, root 5 again, right? So if we're in that G sharp minor, right? It's a pretty poppy chord progression, honestly, and this really holds down the chord progression while the leads can kind of do their own thing, right? So with the sound on this one, it starts with this operator patch. I'm actually just going to turn everything off and kind of go one by one so you can see. So it starts here. Right, so you can hear there how this pitch envelope changes it. We're basically starting with this. It's a sine wave that's actually pretty short, and when we get the distortion on, I'll show you the length, like the decay length here can really change the type of kick you have. As you can see, I'm doing a little bit of FM from the second oscillator here, and then that's up an octave. So then we got the low pass filter. There's no envelope or anything. The filter's not even being used. I'm just using the shaper here. Right, so it kind of gives it some more harmonics and some more warmth. And then we have our pitch envelope. So you can see the pitch envelope, it goes down to -2. That's another reason why this is kind of like getting thrown off from what it actually is in the MIDI, right? But you can see what we're doing here is we're just creating this like little pew. So what you do is you use the attack, but normally the attack will look like that. Right, it wouldn't be good. So you take this initial and just put it up all the way. And now it's just starting at the highest point. So then the attack just says how long it hangs on that point. Right, and you can get that nice kind of like high-pitched sort of thing at the start of the kick, which is then going to go with what we do next, which is basically just a ton of filtering and distortion. So we start with this. Right, so you start distorting it and then heavily filtering it. Like, I used to watch some of these videos of these old hardstyle kicks being made just out of curiosity. Like, when I was first into producing, I'm not even the biggest hardstyle fan, but just kind of, like, fascinated by this strange genre, right? And, like, this is essentially how they do that. It's, like, breaking major rules with EQ. Like, if you were sitting here trying to mix, like, a rock band or something, and you were doing this on your EQ, I mean, if it sounds good, it is good, but usually this kind of stuff isn't really good, right? But with this kind of thing, it's more about sound design. It's just like kind of pushing out these frequencies that exist in the kick and pushing them way up or pushing them way down. and accentuating certain things and then distorting after that, right? So then we get to that point, and then I brought this in. So this is multi-band distortion. It's essentially we're just taking the lows, keeping them on their own, and then distorting the mids and highs independent. It just helps to get that kind of growl out of the sound a little bit. Then we EQ it some more. Right, so now we're starting to take out some of those low mids and really scoop it, and then distort it again. Right, so now it's that big kind of behemoth, but it's still a little bit muddy, so then I just EQ'd it a little bit more. And there you go. There's definitely a lot of ways to make these kicks too. I mean, I've seen people do them with 808 kicks, although I do think the classic hardstyle thing is a 909, right? So we're using that kick. Then we have our first sort of lead. So we're in triplets here, right? It's dun 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 dun. That kind of hardstyle rhythm. The note length is very important also. I think, like, I noticed that, like, when I had these and I was playing around with the note length, and when they're kind of like legato, that can work too, but then you can also get a lot of mileage out of the note length. Now, as far as the MIDI goes here, it can seem really complicated to make these sort of patterns. Basically, the way I'm thinking of it is kind of two melodies. We got, you know, this up here. Right? This, like, kind of simple, you know, G sharp minor, sort of like evil sounding melody, and then just responding to it with these 16th notes down here. And again, like simple G sharp minor, like 5th, 6th, 7th, root, 3rd. Here, you know, 5th, 6th. We're kind of breaking the key a little bit with that G, but that's obviously like that hardstyle thing. So you see, if you look at this musically, 9th, 3rd, it's not that complicated. It's just the way it dances around. And I think it's the way it all works together too. Like, you know, that kick doing that pattern, combining with this. So then for the sound here, we got this instrument rack. I'll just turn off all the effects and show you what it sounds like just dry. So I basically created this big super saw. We got one wavetable here, which is 2 saw waves detuned a bunch in opposite directions, and then classic unison, no release, so it's really short and tight with the note lengths. And then in the left ear, it's just a saw wave with a bunch of noise unison, and then you put them together, and you get kind of a fresher, more exciting sort of super saw. It's a way to like bring it to life and give it something new. And we got a bit of chorus, a little bit of roar, which you barely hear if I turn it up though. So it's kind of just focusing those mids and highs and kind of making it a bit sharper. High pass filter, auto pan to make it bounce off the kick. Right? And then we have this send. Now, the purpose of this send is that the reverbs in these tracks, very loud, very in your face, and almost a bit ambient, yet somehow it's always really controlled. Like if you hear it, right? But reverb really is a main character there. It's just when you just put it directly onto your synths, it can kind of take over. So instead what you do, and I think that a lot of these hardstyle people kind of like pioneered this technique, you basically take this, and it's actually something people do a lot with vocals, but you make a send with 100% wet reverb. Right? Like that's the reverb. You can hear it's really loud and in your face, and then you actually sidechain it to your lead. So you still have the loud reverb, but now when the lead plays, you don't hear the reverb. And then also sidechain it to the kick, which in this case we're using auto pan. And it also gives you that crazy kind of almost like mysterious like pumping effect. Like how are they, like the reverb is so ambient and so in your face, yet it's so like kind of like in between the lines of the track, you know? Like it's so loud, yet it's not loud when you don't want it to be loud, right? And that's essentially how that happens, is you just sidechain that to your lead so that it would duck out of the way, but you could still have a loud reverb. Then we got this lead. So this is a really simple one musically. If we look at this, right, we're just going 6, 5, and then this is another 5 down here. 9, 3. It's call and response. And then at the end it goes 4, 7, and then this is just 4 and 7, an octave down, right? So kind of like sitting on top of that other lead, and since the other one is so busy, this one is just really simple, but it adds a lot musically. Especially like if you have a drop where you don't have that and then it comes in. Right, it becomes very much like kind of all one thing. Now, for this one, I used a similar process to kind of create the unison, but it's using analog because I wanted to show you can create these sounds with more than just Ableton's wavetable or with like Serum or something. So what we got here are these two patches. One's panned completely left. You can see it's these saw waves, detune, bit of unison. I put that up to 4 voices. No release. And then this one's even more detuned in different ways. Like I've got the vibrato up, I got the unison on different settings, different detunes here. And this one has a little bit of release. And then you put them together. And it creates a really cool stereo effect having those in different ears like that, right? Then we have a bit of chorus. And reverb. On something like this, you don't need to duck the reverb. High pass filter, and then auto pan to sidechain it to the kick. And then we got our little transition. Now, there's a few things that work together here. For one, we got this little noise and operator. Right, so you see what's happening here. Inside operator, I've got a white noise with an attack, so it fades in on the volume, and then a high pass filter. This is how you can make this without having to do any automation. And then I just have a reverb as well, so it kind of like washes out. Plus the crash here, classic hardstyle fill, like the right, and then hitting there. Plus the kick also, right, like having that kick duck out. Right, and then going out of the drop, you just hit once with the kick. Really simple, right? I think it's a really good case of everything working together to kind of create one vision and not any one thing taking up too much space, but it all kind of creates one element when you hear the track. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full template at the top of the description on my website, so you can make your own awesome hardstyle tracks. Links at the top of the description. Thanks for the support, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.